Welcome to the Frictionless Innkeeper podcast. Coming right up, fresh tips and insights from lodging professionals aimed at helping you improve your business. Our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest App, the digital concierge that helps your guests to live like locals. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com. Steve Short, how's it going?
Going all right, Matt. Glad that we're in the throes of warmer weather.
I know. Finally, it's been a crazy winter. It was a very long winter. Oh, here we go. Here's the connective tissue. And it's also been a long time since we've done a podcast, 5 years to be precise, with Monique Greenwood, who's the owner of the Akwaaba Bed and Breakfast Inns. And we love her, and she's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I see Monique, it seems like on average once a year. I couldn't make the ALP this year, unfortunately, but I usually see her at ALP or some of the conferences that are out there. But yeah, I didn't realize we hadn't talked to her for so long. So it was good to be able to catch up with her. And she's always got great knowledge that she likes to impart. And she's just fun to talk with. It was good to finally get her on, for sure.
Yeah, and this one was so awesome too because she's been in the innkeeping business for 30 years, basically building this empire. So this whole podcast here was really her 30 key lessons that she learned along the way in 30. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, one of my main company, we've been around for at least 10 years now with Frictionless, but Netlink, my services company, has been 22 years. I don't think I've learned 22 things. So good for her that she's learned 30. And we learned some by listening to her, didn't we?
Oh my gosh. Yes, totally. We were just talking. Like, I mean, all of these tips here, every business owner should keep in mind about being your own authentic self,
Absolutely.
not being afraid to take risks, being experimental with marketing. I mean, there's so many things. I don't want to give it away, but this is inspirational for anybody who really wants to just succeed.
Absolutely.
Really cool. All right. With that, we hope you enjoy this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Monique Greenwood, who's the owner of the Akwaaba Bed and Breakfast Inns. Monique, how are you? Great to see you
I
again.
am well. I know, Matt. How are you?
Doing well. Great to have you. Steve Short, how are you?
Doing well, Matt. How come it took so long for you to get Monique back on the podcast?
I know. It's only been 5 years. We were talking before we hit the record button and we realized it was 2019 when we last spoke with Monique. So this is amazing.
That
5
is
years.
so hard to believe that it's been that long since we all talked. I have seen Steve at the conferences since that time, but yeah, it's 5 years. Time flies.
5 years, time flies. So before we really kick off on your kind of 30 lessons over 30 years topic, how are things? What's new, I guess, over the past 5 years when it comes to Akwaaba Bed and Breakfast Inns?
We are doing extremely well. A lot has happened in 5 years. I mean, because this is basically also post-COVID. And so I don't know whether or not I had sold my DC and Cape May locations when we spoke or not, but I sold both of those locations because I quite frankly got offers I couldn't refuse. People wanted to get to the shore, and DC was always attractive for developers and that kind of thing. So with COVID in mind, I said, let me entertain those offers. And believe me, I did the numbers on the back of a napkin and realized that I could take those offers, or I could be the 90-year-old lady asking if you want more coffee in the morning. I made that decision to sell, but then I doubled down. So here's a new stuff that's happening in our world. We bought 3 homes just outside the gate of our Poconos location and renovated those and made them vacation homes. It's an extension of the Bed and Breakfast Inn, and we have these vacation homes, and it's just a different way to stay, right? Because some people would prefer to have kitchens and privacy. And so we have that as well. And those have done extremely well. And then we also bought a building down the street from the Philadelphia Bed and Breakfast and opened a tea salon. So that's called the Akwaaba Tea and Event Space. And so we are open there on weekends offering a high tea experience where the ladies come all decked out in their fascinators and their pearls and their gloves, and they put their pinkies up and have amazing tea. So those are two new projects. And I'll tell you about another one that's launching this week. So when we get there, but that's enough going on that's new in the last 5 years.
That's awesome. Always doing new things, which is what it's all about. This is great.
Yes.
All right. Well, hit us up if you're ready. Talk about this 30-year deal. Just like it's been 5 years since we've had you on the podcast, it probably is hard to believe it's been 30 years that you've been doing the whole thing. But like you said before we started, it's a passion, right? It's not really a vocation, or maybe it's both, right?
Yes.
So,
It
yeah.
is, it is hard to believe that it's been 30 years now. We're at year 31 starting, and my husband retired from his job and he got fired from the business or he quit, depending on who you ask, 2 years into Akwaaba, the bed and breakfast business. So I've been running this and having a good time at it. And I just, spent a little bit of time thinking about like, what are those life lessons that I learned? What are those business lessons that I've learned in the last 30 years? Because when I started, I was kind of the baby in the room. I would go to the trade shows and I was the young one. And now it's like I'm the veteran. And that's kind of interesting to be in that space, but certainly want to share ideas and things that I've learned along the way to help other people not maybe experience some of the pitfalls that I did, but also be inspired to know that on the opposite end, you can still find joy and passion in what you do, even if you've been doing it for 3 decades. So I'm always kind of evolving and redefining not only my business, but me personally. So yeah, I'm happy to share some of those 30 lessons that I've learned. And I think number one would be I've always started with the end in mind. So I saw myself being here. I saw myself building a successful business and I worked my way backwards, like what has to happen in order for that to happen. And the number one thing was to start with your business in mind is to make sure that your business plan aligns with your life plan. I have shared that I got into the bed and breakfast industry because I had this lofty idea of owning a home that I love for each season of the year. And so the B&Bs was going to be my way of doing that. So there's Brooklyn for the fall, DC for the spring. We had Cape May for the summer, and at one point New Orleans for the winter, where it was still warm.
That's right.
So
Mhm.
I've operated businesses in all of those locations, but it was because I started with the end in mind, what was my life plan, and that was it. I also think it's important to have what is the exit strategy. If I decided that this was the year that I was going to leave, like what's the plan for that? So I kind of had that in mind as well. I knew that the Brooklyn location, which is where it all started, was going to be a legacy property because that's where I raised my daughter. I also understood that it was more of a lifestyle business. We only have 4 guest rooms there, and that real estate has always been more valuable than the actual income from the business. So that's the first lesson I learned was to start with the end in mind.
So I'm just wondering, it seems like you're, again, because you love what you do, there's always such short-term thinking in everything everybody seems to do in this world. It seems like you play the long game, I guess I'd say. Is that fair?
That is very fair if you believe in astrology, and I don't know much about it, but I'm a Cancer, which means we hold on for dear life. We cling, we don't let it go. And I've always understood like that, just like McDonald's, that they're not in the hamburger business, they're in the real estate business. And I feel the same way with my bed and breakfast. I purchase amazing historical properties, and I realize that the greatest and highest use for some of them is not hospitality. So with Brooklyn, it's like, yeah, that long game looked like for me creating a legacy for my daughter who was raised in the inn and for her to be able to raise her children there when she gets around to having them. I'm still waiting to be a grandparent. But yeah, so that is absolutely the case. But always, I believe you need to have a plan, but be flexible enough to pivot if you have to. And so even though I didn't initially start out planning to sell Cape May or New Orleans because I wanted those four properties for each season. We did the pivot at the time of COVID and we felt like we can do that again. But for at least for right now, I do have my sights set on a plan and I'm working the plan.
Excellent.
So that takes me to the next thing. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should. right? It took me a long time to learn that lesson. You have to really know what is your greatest, highest value to your business. Is it that you make the breakfast? And maybe you do that because it's your passion. But if it's not your passion, like it wasn't for me, I needed to get myself out of the kitchen because that wasn't my greatest value to my business. And it was important to assemble an A team so that everything could get done and I could do the thing that was most important that only I could do. And in my case, I believe that as the owner of the property, that I need to be the visionary for the property and the keeper of the brand, making sure that we're consistent and that everything we do, every way we are, is on brand. And I can be the best salesperson more so than anybody else on the team because it is my passion, it is my vision. So I need to be making sure that I am looking at the marketing and anything that's going to put heads on beds and then put together that A team that can do the rest and continuously evaluate that starting lineup. And when people need to be moved off the roster, then they get moved off the roster quickly. And we recruit somebody else that can help hit the home runs that we're looking for. So that was something I had to learn. I was very slow to hit the highway. Remember, when I started 30 years ago, there was no such thing as the internet. Hard to believe, but there was no such thing as the internet. And so when people started talking about get on the internet, how many people follow you, I was just kind of like, I don't know who's following me. I don't know why they would follow me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not, and people were telling me that they were getting folks who were looking for me coming to their website. And so I was slow to convert and do a website. I was slow to get onto social media as well. And because I'm a writer by profession, and I didn't understand that I had to say what I needed to say in 140 words. I didn't understand all of the short abbreviations for everything. And I kept thinking, well, I'm going to write it. I want it in my voice. But it never happened because I could never get to it. So again, learning the lesson, just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should have. You should. And so I ended up hiring a social media content creator and we got on there and we're killing the game because she's doing it. You don't have to do it. I pay her to do it. And we now have close to 80,000 followers on Instagram, almost just as many on Facebook. And, we are leveraging that platform amazingly well. And it's because I am not doing it. Like I'm the face, I'll do my part. I'm the one who's delivering the story and I send her the pictures and all of that stuff. And, she's gotten me okay with at a moment's notice being on camera, but she's doing it. So
That's
establishing that A team.
That's interesting. I was going to say, I thought you're like the queen of social, but maybe you're
I
just the
am.
queen of PR, right? I mean, that's the important thing is how do you get your name out and leverage the channels that you have? But you're right. You don't have to do that yourself. It's
Yeah,
your
no,
brand.
she's doing all the editing. Yes, feeding her content, telling her what the story is, and stepping in front of the camera to communicate with our followers. But she's absolutely cutting it and uploading it and all of that good stuff. And that's the stuff I thought I was going to do too. But again, you can't do it all and you shouldn't do it all. So, speaking of that, my third big lesson is to thine own self be true. Sometimes we are trying to be what we think an innkeeper should be or look the way we think an inn should look. And it's really about you putting your unique flair on your property or on that experience that your guest is going to have. And certainly 30 years ago, I was trying to do everything I saw anybody else do where I had stayed at their inn, right? So if they had doilies, I had doilies. If they started with a suite and before they brought out the entree, I tried to do the same thing. But I was like, you know what? I don't bake for real. Why do I have to have the start with that? Eggs Benedict, like, that's not how I eat. Why am I doing that for breakfast? And so the minute that I was authentic with who I am and brought that experience to my guests, then I had the traction. So we do not do eggs Benedict, but we're doing fish and grits and cornbread because that's how I was raised and that's what I know. And I love that I put a plate down in front of my guests and I don't have to explain what they're about to eat. It's like, oh my God, blueberry pancakes. People just want an authentic experience. And so that's what matters. And then you want to leverage what makes you unique. For me, it's like, okay, I have Southern roots and people sometimes will put you in a box, even on many things, whether it's because you're a woman, whether it's because you're a Black woman, all I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lean into all of that. I'm not gonna run from that. And because of that, people will embrace me even more because I'm uniquely me. So I would encourage all innkeepers to do the same.
You have fish for breakfast. You serve fish for breakfast?
We do fried fish
That's
and grits
wild.
and cornbread. Yes. One of the posts that we did that got so much traction was sugar or salt in your grits. I had no idea people would care. They had a lot
Huh,
to say about that.
that's funny.
And
Have you
we
are
put
you
salt.
familiar I know your Philly place is all about music. Are you familiar with Anthony Hamilton? He's got, cornbread,
Oh,
fish, and collard greens.
I
Have you ever heard that
I
song? That's a
love
great song.
him. Yes, I love him as an artist, absolutely, and that's what we're all about. We even make with our quiche, we do collard green quiche,
Yeah.
so we're going to incorporate that authentic African American
Southern.
heritage
Yeah,
wherever we
yeah,
can. Absolutely.
yeah, cool.
Um, so that kind of flows right into the fourth lesson I learned, which is to build a brand, not just a business. We want you to know exactly where you are the moment you walk in. Some of my guests will say, "Oh, we knew we were in the right place as soon as we walked in the door." And what they were talking about was the music that they heard playing. Again, that's on brand too. Now, I love classical music and I go to a lot of inns where that's what they're playing and I receive it. It's lovely and it's soothing. But when you walk into my property, you're gonna get throwback R&B, and that's on brand with what we're doing. And we're gonna logo everything, everything and anything. We want guests to feel like it's an exclusive experience, and we don't want you to forget our name. You're never gonna forget our name because we have it on a sticker on our toilet paper. When we fold that back, we have our own custom wines. Just this morning, I approved our custom teas. It's beautiful in tin cans. It has our logo. And so everything we use, we sell. Everything we sell, we use. And that just becomes another stream of income as well. But if only if the brand is there for you. We were even very intentional about what we were going to call our bed and breakfast. I was looking for a name that resonated with our mission, which is hospitality, and also that was connected to our culture, right? And so Akwaaba means welcome in a language spoken in Ghana, West Africa. So there you got the welcome, you got the African heritage, and you got it starting with the A, which makes us first on most lists because they're usually alphabetized. All all intentional about what we were doing in building a
It's a
brand,
unique
not
it's
just
a
a
unique
business.
name. Yeah, I mean, it's a unique name. I mean, once you've heard it once or twice, you kind of remember it, or at least you're close enough to saying, "Okay, I can identify that's who that is," right? Yeah.
Exactly, Steve. People still say, "Oh, waka, waka," and because they can't pronounce it. And when we started, it was hard because you couldn't just Google our contact information. No such thing as Google. You'd call 411. You'd ask for the phone number for Aquaba. They'd ask you how to spell it, and then all was lost, right? They'd get the supervisor and they would try to figure it out. But that's not a problem anymore. And now it's a good problem to have that we are unique. In fact, you guys, I think when we last spoke, I may have talked about a collection of home goods that I designed exclusively
That's
for
right.
Macy's.
Yeah,
Well,
mhm.
having the unique name Aquaba allowed me to do that because we had to get trademarked in every category for bedding, for sheets, for candles, all the things that I made for Macy's. We had to own the trademark for each of those classifications. And there was another bed and breakfast that they were working with at the time. They were trying to do three B&Bs or hotels that they partnered with. I was the only one that was able to clear all the trademarks because no one had ever
Nobody
heard
else
of it.
had the name, right? Yeah.
No one else had that
Yeah.
name. No problems there. Absolutely. So we are building a brand. And then, as I said, leveraging that brand would be my fifth lesson. What else can I put that brand on? We're going to put it on everything we possibly can, not just the name, but the experience. How do we brand with that name? So, just I said, Macy's was an example of how we did that, how we partnered with the vineyard in Napa Valley for the wines, how we now have a partner to make the teas. So yeah, we're going to leverage that brand. I laugh a little bit as I want to share the sixth tip with you about making friends with technology because I've already revealed, I already stripped myself down and told you I was slow to embrace technology. So we are really trying, even now, it takes time for me to get there, but I'm trying to make friends with technology fast. I can tell you the number one thing that changed my world in this business early on was when they came out with electronic door openings, push button door locks. Because I spent many, many days waiting on the guests who said they were going to check in at 2 o'clock. And I was held hostage in the bed and breakfast. I couldn't leave because they didn't show up until 7 o'clock because they decided to go shopping or grab a bite before they got there. But I couldn't do anything until they got there because I had to give them the key and let them in. Now, with our digital locks, which we employed very early on, it just changed my whole life. Being able to say, well, here's the combination, let yourself in, and we look forward to meeting you at breakfast. So that was big. Technology, now we have AI on the scene. We've got to embrace that quickly. We are embracing it. And I know it comes up a lot at our conferences. And I know some innkeepers could never do their jobs without it. Don't know how they ever did do their jobs without it because we're using it to help us write our newsletters, to everything, AI. And that's how the consumer, the traveler, is using AI. And it's going right on and asking chat or whoever they call their AI buddy, I want this experience. Where should I go? And so if you're not showing up and you don't know that, you're going to be in trouble. And then just being a lifelong learner. So I show up at all the trade shows. I'm always at ALP. Before that, whatever it was called, and before that, all the different names. I've only missed one in 30 years because I'm going there to see what else I can learn. And there's always something that you can pick up on. It may not be in a panel discussion. It may be in a one-on-one conversation with somebody you ran into in the ladies' room. Who knows? But if you're receptive to learning, you will, and you'll find that. I also in a group called Chief Executive Boards. It's an affinity group, and we meet with that. I'm involved in my Chamber of Commerce's, my local tourism councils, all of those things where I can learn and network. And that allows me to feel connected, to be connected, and to also be a connector, to be able to pass the good work, for example, that Frictionless Innkeeper. I use the app so I can tell the next person, hey, this saved a lot of time, money, and energy because it's all in one place. And all of my guests can do it. They're very impressed. It's customized, and I let them know that I handpicked the restaurants that we have on there. So it has saved a lot of time and a lot of calls in the middle of the night about something that they can go on and find out for themselves. So you want to be a lifelong learner and be a connector. Number 8 for me on my list of 30 lessons learned would be don't be afraid to think big and out of the box. So because you're networking and you're always looking for best practices and you're being a lifelong learner, it is absolutely fine to replicate, duplicate. It is a high compliment. So I'm watching what other people are doing, and I'm so happy when they're doing something different and I say, oh, I could use that. So during COVID, Herman Hill Bed and Breakfast put shoe racks outside of the doors of their guest rooms because people didn't want to bring all the scum and all the stuff that was out there into their rooms. So I called the rooms their sanitized sanctuaries. I still do. And I have shoe racks outside of the doors of the rooms. And the guests love the idea. They actually do it. They take off their shoes before they step into their sanitized sanctuaries. And it's just thoughtful. It's just being intentional about creating a safe space in every way for our guests to enjoy. I just had printed some bedtime affirmations. It's a card that I'm going to put on my nightstands in the evenings with a homemade cookie. And I stole that idea from Saratoga Arms. She was doing a bedtime affirmation card. And we know that people are tapped into wellness and to well-being. You hear people saying things like, I'm going to protect my peace. And that's the language, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's let them, before they close their eyes in our comfy beds, be reflective about the experience they had that day. Be grateful for that experience. And so it's just mindfulness, and it's right on brand for who we are. So here's my new thinking out of the box I want to share with you guys. We just launched it on social media this week, and we call it Akwaaba on Wheels. So I mentioned that my husband retired, and we set as a goal to be able to kind of travel across the country together in his retirement. So I bought him, or so he thinks, an RV. I named it Aquaba on Wheels. And so what we're doing is bringing the inn to the guest. So I tricked it out. It's absolutely beautiful. We have a calendar of where the RV will be. Guests can book a stay in the RV the same way they would book a room at the inn. And we're going to every place they want to be when they want to be there. So if they, Martha's Vineyard is very popular in August. So we have 2 dates in August where people can book and stay in the RV. So we book the campsites and they will have their favorite beverages already stocked in the refrigerator when they arrive. They will have a grill pack that they can grill some steaks or veggie dogs or whatever it is they want in their grill pack. And of course, we have a gas grill as well as a charcoal grill and everything they want. And so people are just losing their minds over the idea because they get to experience like tiny house living and camp or glamp, if you will, and attend a concert or a festival because we've been intentional about where we're going to pull up. So we'll be at the
That's
Newport
gorgeous.
Jazz Festival. We'll be all
All
over.
right.
So I'm excited. Yeah.
Now, where do you stay once you get this thing there?
It's a good question. See, you think like a business person. So we will drive it there. We will park it on the campsite. We'll set it up so that when they get there, it's already set up for them. And then
Mhm.
we'll leave and we'll check ourselves into one of our friends' B&Bs or
There we
stay with
go.
some folks. And then we'll go back and pick it up, 3, 4 days later. We're basically looking for a 4-night minimum, but it gets us out in the country and gets us out and traveling as well. But we won't stay. We'll drive it there, set it up. Then we'll get out and they'll move in. And hey, they pay for our vacation.
Excellent. Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome.
By the way, we got to keep an
Yes.
eye on time. I don't know that we're going to get all past through all 30 here.
Well, you
Where
know
are
what?
we at?
Okay. Well, okay. So how much time do we have, guys?
Or we could just split this into two.
I'm going to speed through. I think I can get through because some of these lessons overlap, right? And some lessons you have to learn again, unfortunately. So, lesson number 9 is to be a trend watcher, is exactly what I just said. I talked about the cards. So, we know that wellness travel is big. So, anything that anybody can do to tap into where people are and meet people where they are. I created little fitness corners at each of my ends. I just have like 4 sets of free weights. I have a couple of yoga mats and I have a chart that's on the wall and that way and some bands. And so our guests can get back, stay on their routine about fitness while they're away. So we're looking at wellness in its totality, even doing some adjustment to what we offer at breakfast. We're going to start out with a smoothie shot or green juice, that we've juiced. And we just know this is where people are. So be a trend watcher. We're always doing that. And that's big. Beware of burnout. And that's a big one for innkeepers. Make sure that you give yourself to yourself before you give yourself away. You ask the innkeeper what are their personal passions or hobbies. Some people look blank. They don't have one. They haven't thought about it because when do they have time for a hobby, right? So beware of the burnout. That has to do with time management. I think I'm pretty good at that. I like to handle a piece of paper one time. And lately, what I've been doing is I leave the office. I work from someplace else one day a week, like a coffee shop or whatever, but not in my neighborhood. I need to go where nobody knows my name and where I can kind of work on the business in a non-distracted way. And this is how we're going to manage time. And I live by a things to do list. I do it at night so that I can be on point when I wake up in the morning. I can be intentional. And nothing gives me greater satisfaction than being able to do the checklist. Goals and forecasting, very goal oriented. And I'm trying to get better at financial forecasting. So that's my work. I'm still learning that lesson, trying to ask more of my accountant to help me be able to set those financial goals and benchmarks. So I'm working on that. SOPs are very important. Last year we worked with a consultant. So when the operations thing with the lesson learned was, listen, don't assume that if you say you want your lights dimmed in the evening for your guests to create a moody feeling or what have you, dim how much? That specific. Can I put a little red marker beside the slider where the dimmer is that says this is the spot where you stop? Because otherwise you can walk in and it looks like you're closed for the day because they've dimmed them too much. And you talk about emergency procedures and what kind of music should be playing. Don't leave that up to somebody else's discretion. Have a playlist, do the tape, because if you're counting on staff, they need to understand exactly what to do and how to do it. So staff is my next one, is probably the pain point many of us suffer from. And the one thing that I've learned here is this: I'm hiring for heart. I can teach you how to set the table properly, but I can't teach you how to put a smile on somebody's face. That has to come from within you. So I'm always
Yeah.
hiring for heart, and I will invest in the training from there.
Soft
And with
skills is
those
what you
staffs,
call it. Yeah.
what's that?
Soft skills, right? In other words,
Absolutely.
you can train the hard skills, but the soft skills are that's tough. Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. And I'll take that any day. I think we can train for everything else. And with staff, just knowing what do they need from you? What are their drivers? And not everybody's in it for the money, although most are. But, is it the flexibility of time? Can we work around that somehow? Is it, someone seeking community, just wants to be in the mood and the vibe of this energy of our guests and the other employees? What's driving that staff? And how can you feed into that, drive them, keep them with you longer? Professional development and cross training is another big lesson learned with staffing. I usually, Steve, used to bring all of my whole staff to the trade conferences. It was a big investment. I have my general manager in an affinity group now, similar to my chief executive network, because I want them to learn, but also demonstrate how smart they are, but more than that, how valuable they are to our business. So I'm pouring into them and hoping that that overflows all over my business, all over my guests. I'm going to keep pouring into them, cross training them, because we've got to be mindful of the bottom line. So I don't need one trick ponies. I need people who can do this and do that and a little bit of that too, right? I've learned that. Finances, I would say a big lesson was that you have to be creative when raising capital. Maybe you're cashing in your 401k and that's how you're going to do this thing. And maybe you're going to the bank, and that's great too. But, if those aren't options for you, there are so many other creative ways in which you can raise capital. I recently raised $100,000 when I opened my tea salon, and I've always bootstrapped everything. I usually just, rob Peter to pay Paul, and that's how we make new things happen, right? But when I did the tea salon, I did a kind of a crowdfunding concept, but it wasn't where you get a t-shirt or anything like that because you contributed to the campaign. I did something called Honeycomb Capital, and that platform allows you to raise funds with investments from the people who love you and support you. And it is an investment, meaning that it's really a loan, and they're going to get paid back with much higher interest than they would if they left their money sitting in a bank account. And they can invest. And this is done through the stock exchange. It's all upfront, legitimate. It's a real investment. I did it for 3 years, and people can invest for as little as $100, right? And then they're gonna get paid back at 10%, 12%, whatever it is. But I did it not because I couldn't go to the bank to get a loan if I needed to do that, but I was looking to figure out a way that the community could learn about investing, but more so, could feel like they were vested in my success. So when these women show up on Sundays or Saturdays or whenever they come into the tea salon, they're with their friends and they have their chest poked out real broad saying, I'm an investor. I made this happen. So they show up
Yeah.
because they want to see me win, because they got skin in
That's
the
a great
game
idea.
for real.
Ownership
Yeah. So,
concept. Yeah. Yep.
yeah. How much time do I have? I got 10 more to give you. Do I have time?
Let's go for it.
Okay.
If we're going to give extra time to anybody, it would be you, Monique. You should know that.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
Thank you, Matt and Steve. I'm going to make these really quick because this is on finances in terms of my lessons learned there. And I don't really have a lot of lessons there because, as I said, this is where I need to learn more. I am being much more of a stickler with the financial reporting from my bookkeeper. She always gives me a P&L, but this year I'm asking for balance sheets because I need to understand my cash flow better. I want to use the pacing or my PMS system because I don't want to start panicking unnecessarily if, my June isn't looking strong in the middle of April. I need to see what happened last year and understand that people are booking closer to the date. So those are some lessons there. The tax opportunities. which are great in this industry. So really making sure how we apply those. I may never get a full roll of toilet paper because I'm only using the ends that are left over in the bathrooms of the of the guest rooms when they're too small to leave there. But so many tax benefits, writing off the percentage of the mortgage, the percentage of the light bill and the gas bill or what have you that occupy the space of the inn. When you live there, you can just write off all of it except for the small percentage of the space that you personally might occupy. So I learned that lesson and I definitely take care of that. So product pricing is one that, I've had a hard time with because I am price sensitive as a person, as a consumer. And so I tend to lowball myself. And so I really understand now I need to start higher because I can always lower, but it's hard to go the other way around. And so that was a lesson I learned. And now with our yield management for our rooms, I let somebody else on my team be responsible for that who is not price sensitive. And she's raising those rates and I look the other way. I don't want to know that somebody paid $400 because it puts undue pressure on me. I want to deliver, period. But I don't want them going, well, why did I pay all this money for blah, 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 blah? My heart can't take that. I'm just too thin skinned for that. So I let her do the yield management based on that. And I look the other way. But I don't discount. I don't discount. Whatever I do, that's my 22nd lesson. Never discount. I basically am trying to add value. So if I have a weekend that's looking sluggish, I'm not going to go and reduce my rates or give them 20% off. I'm going to add something that they find compelling and that's the weekend that they need to come in order to get to that. So yeah, I'm not going to discount, but I'm going to add value. And then I'm not going to compete on price. When people tell me, oh, well, this property will do this rate for me if I do a whole house booking. I go, well, that's really great. Well, we don't do the discounted rate for whole house booking because what we're going to give you with your whole house booking is the exclusivity of the place all to yourself. And I know what kind of experience you're looking to deliver. And we can do that because you're going to have our undivided attention and we're going to clean up or whatever it is you're going to do. But we're not going to compete on price. We're going to compete on the experience that we know we can deliver that maybe the next guy can't. 24, social media. We talked about that. I'm so pleased with where we are with that right now because we know that some people think that you can't quantify the effectiveness of social media. We can, and we know, even if it's anecdotally, that a lot of our business comes because people saw us on social media. They felt like they already had an Akwaaba experience just by following us online. So they absolutely want to come and put the key in the door to their guest room. And so we use all the key platforms. We are not using TikTok. I get people who trying to, pressure me, younger people, my daughter, that you got to do TikTok. I'm like, that again, I'm slow on the superhighway. So I don't know. I can't make that promise. But we know that our guests use TikTok and we always encourage them to tag us whenever they post. But we're basically working with Facebook and Instagram. We have worked with influencers. We do see the benefit of that, but you just have to be smart about how you work with influencers. We've done that. And we do a lot more video than we do stagnant photos. We know that catches people's attention. And again, trend watching, what's the song that's going to stop them from scrolling? All of that. We give that complete thought. Online marketing, we don't do a lot of that. So I can't speak to that much because we don't do OTAs. We've never done OTAs. We don't want to share our meager profits with anybody. And we think that if we build a strong enough brand, we can get them to deal directly with us. And that's what we do. And then we do a lot of unexpected marketing. So we're good for putting an ad in the church bulletin at the big churches in the neighborhood. We can put an ad on a fan that they give out at the funeral home. All of that. We love those kind of grassroots marketing, a little bit out of the box ways in which to reach people and share our brand, not just an ad.
You could
And
you
then
could
20,
try to hire if you want, you can try to hire Matt to like run around Madrid because he's in Madrid now. And maybe he could run around half naked with a sandwich board or something like that. That would be different
I
marketing.
don't know if that's going to help her business, but yeah,
Oh,
happy to
but
help
how
out with
jealous are we? You live in Madrid now?
I do, yeah, moved here, gosh, 4 years
Beautiful.
ago almost, yeah, so, yeah,
Oh
the
my
dream came,
gosh.
yeah, yeah,
Good
yeah,
for you. Good
yes.
for you. See, I just want to not live in the end, so I'm really jealous of you now.
Well, come visit and consider moving here if after you potentially liquidate all properties when you get to that point.
See,
Good
yeah,
place to
see, I
retire,
know.
you know?
Yes, I bet it is. Good for you, Matt. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
I'm going to finish up, guys, with my last three. Believe it or not, I'm on number 27. And that's, what's your cherry on top? What is the thing that you do that most people probably don't, that is a distinguishing factor that leaves you, that's that wow thing that you do, that your guests leave and go, wow, I didn't expect that. And I've seen innkeepers who deliver ice cream to their guests in the evening. They personally bring up the ice cream or whatever, something unexpected that you don't advertise and that you don't charge for, that leaves them wanting more and saying, what a great experience. What's your cherry on top? Believe it or not, on Saturdays at my Poconos location, we play a game that I call the song game. I kind of made it up. My husband says I'm so corny, and I'm like, yep, I'm corny because corny works. And we play this song game, and by the end of the game, it has everybody in the dining room after breakfast singing together, top of their lungs, competing, stopping each other in the hallway later in the day saying, oh my God, I don't know how I didn't think about Prince's song or what have you. But it's a competitive game with prizes, but it creates community. And what we know people more than anything is community. How do we give them high touch in a high tech world? And so that is our cherry on top. And everybody, every end needs to have one, whatever it is. That kind of speaks to number 28, the personal touch. What is it that you're going to do that makes them think they're your absolute favorite guest? And maybe they are. We love all of our guests, but we want each one at each time to feel like they're our favorite. And what is that? How do we personalize their experience? Do we remember how they like their coffee the next day? That they like the French vanilla creamer. And we come over to them in the morning the next day without them even asking with the French vanilla creamer. What temperature do they like their room set at? Are you going to do a personal turn down? Whatever it is, what is a personal touch? And again, some of that can be an upsell. That's number 29. What kind of upsell opportunities can you offer for your guests that will create a bigger experience for them? We do picnic baskets for two, and they love it. It's all packed up with the picnic basket with the blanket, and they go trotting hand in hand and find a place on the meadow where they're going to sit and have their picnic lunch. So, those kinds of upsells, what can they look like? And then third and final 30, time with the owner. So, if you're at a place in your business where you're running away from the guests, you're done. It's time
Mm.
to move on, right? Because you're worn out at this point. They're exhausted. You want to see how you can physically touch that person. How do you give them a little piece of you? And that's hard for me to do because, as you guys know, I have multiple locations, but they got to get me whether I'm there or not. I have a card that I've written to them, challenging them or giving them permission to dream while they're with us. And I hand sign those cards, and they're on every single pillow while they're there. And it also says on that card, that I've decorated all the ends personally, that these are my recipes that you're enjoying at breakfast. So I am trying to be there without even being there. But if you can find time with them, shower them with love. This is what it's all about. We have a newsletter now. That was a goal, and I'm finally doing that. And I'm doing it myself because I realized I didn't want to give that away because I love to write. So I'm doing the newsletter, and one of the sections that people love to read is called Guest Love. And so that's where we talk about a guest and their experience, and we interview them, and they're in there every month. And what we're trying to show is the diversity of the guests and the reasons why they come. So the most recent one, we have a guest who would come to us almost every other month because she was working to finish her dissertation for a doctorate degree. So she became guest love, and we celebrated her being Dr. Shamika. And she gave quotes about how we created the safe, supportive space for her to accomplish that very lofty goal that she had set for herself. And so, people can see different ways in which we can be vital to their life and relevant to their existence and their experience. And so we got to still feel and touch those guests. And if you've gotten to the point where you really are hiding, like, are the guests here? You want to come in the back door? It may be time for you to either phase yourself out of the business or pass it on to somebody new who is excited about the fact that there are guests in the house tonight.
Yeah.
That's all 30 of them.
Yeah, and that's so funny that you say that. That you're right. That I wouldn't think about that, but you're right. If you as an innkeeper are just not happy to see your guests, that's a problem. So I would say that I'd sum this up by you put the unique in Monique. Like that's kind of your thing, right? Is whatever authenticity reinforcing with your brand, but it's uniquely you, and that's like an unashamed perspective that you have, and you might not get it right all the time, but at least it's real, I guess I'd say. So
Absolutely. Thank you,
and you
Steve.
change, yeah, and you change and you adapt, right? But you don't go like you watch the trends, but you're not trendy, right? You're not jumping on the latest thing. You will once you feel like it fits for you. So
Yes. And
yeah.
and try to really tap into what I believe people want. What do they want? Not what do we want for them. And not being predictable by saying, we just want to be a romantic inn. Hello. You know what? You can't even be a romantic inn. The people will create their own romance. You can create an environment that encourages that. But if you're hanging your hat on we're romantic inn, I think there's a whole lot more that needs to be said and done about that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point. All right. Well, Matt, are you going to spank me or something the next time you see me for us going long on this one or what?
No, man, this was amazing. And there's just so much here that I'm actually happy this one went long. And I would not want to cut Monique off in the midst of all this, especially for like the last few. Those are like the cherry on the ice on the cake, if you will. So, Monique, before we take us out, is there anything else you'd like to add or share before we sign off?
No, I would say, keep having fun with it. That I'm going to do that so that, I don't think I'll be, well, who knows? I might still be on Earth in another 30 years, but I am certainly going to enjoy the next 30 days, the next 30 minutes, the next 30 seconds. And that's what I believe is the takeaway. The real takeaway is, you just got this one life. And for a lot of our guests, it's their 125th anniversary and all that. So there's a lot riding on what we do and how we do it. So I hope that these lessons will be useful. Some of them I'm still learning myself. But I thank you both for the opportunity to share and to have this time together.
Awesome. So this concludes this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Monique Greenwood, who's the owner of the Akwaaba Bed and Breakfast Inns. And Monique was kind enough to share her 30 key lessons that she has learned in her 30 years of being an innkeeper. And our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest App, the digital concierge that helps your guests to live like locals. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com. Once again, that's frictionlessguest.com. And once again, Monique, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Monique. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye, guys.